Today, I'm sharing my reactions to a talk that Oprah had with a doctor who's an expert on GLP-1 medications like Zepbound and Wegovy and the science behind them. I'm on Zepbound and I'm also a therapist, so my reactions to this interview are personal, but a lot of them are more from a therapist perspective. This discussion matters a lot for how we talk about weight and weight loss and our health and our bodies. I'll put a link to the interview in the description. It's almost an hour long, and you'll see my video just has excerpts. I did not put the whole interview here. I just have some little excerpts that I react to. If you do want to watch the whole interview, which I highly recommend, I'll put the link to the description. Okay, let's get into it.
What determines obesity versus overweight, just being overweight?
Okay. So in terms of that first question, right now, there aren't really great definitions.
Yeah.
So we used to use definitions of BMI,
Yeah.
but BMI is really a screening tool. It's not something that was actually ever designed to be a diagnostic tool. So technically, overweight was defined as a BMI of greater than 25 and obesity as a BMI of greater than 30. Body mass index.
Body
yes,
mass
BMI
index.
is body mass index. Now we're really starting to rethink what that means.
I'm glad that she's starting off talking about how BMI was never meant to be used the way it's used today. I know, even I use it. And when I went from a BMI of over 30 to under 30, I, categorized myself as no longer obese, but now overweight. So I'm using it too. I'm guilty, but I also know that it's not an accurate metric. So let's see what else she has to say about it.
Ultimately, when we're treating obesity, the point is not just weight reduction. It's improving and optimizing overall health.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, the focus has been on weight reduction.
Yes.
But the real truth is, and we're going to hear from some people today who tell you that what has happened to them in terms of their physical health, their emotional health, the way they see themselves, the way the rest of the world sees them, is the big bonus for this.
Also glad they're starting out talking about how weight loss is a huge focus for a lot of people, but it's not the most meaningful piece of it. I can relate to this personally. In the over 4 months that I've been on a GLP-1, I've lost about 12 or 13 pounds, but I feel so much healthier. And before this medication, my weight just kept creeping up no matter what I did. And now my weight is creeping down. And I'm able to move more and I'm less inflamed. And it's just made all these differences. Okay, let's move on.
Can you share with our audience, with every person who's listening, who has doubts, who's heard, I saw on TikTok, and why is obesity a disease?
Yeah. And that is such an important and critical question. So as you said, so many people have obesity now, and 2/3 of Americans and half of the world population did not wake up one morning and decide to have obesity. Obesity is not a choice. It is about biology.
Again, I can really relate to this personally because I did not have obesity until after menopause, when I did not choose to suddenly only gain weight and not lose weight, but my hormones changed my body so that I became obese and could not lose weight no matter what. So this is really validating.
And so our body is amazing. It has this amazing, beautiful biology. And basically what it was designed to do is to make sure that we stored enough energy or enough fat. There are these hormones. They're stimulated when we eat food. They're called nutrient-stimulated hormones. And they communicate with our brain. How hungry are we? How full are we? How much energy do we have?
Yeah.
And so this beautiful biology. So hormones inform the brain.
And this is in every person's body.
In every person's body. And so basically it says, okay, this is how much energy you're storing. This is how much fat you're storing. And so you would think, oh, we have this beautiful biology. Wonderful. Then why do so many people have obesity if this is so carefully regulated? Well, it turns out that our obesogenic environment, an environment that is filled with ultra-processed food, lack of sleep, lack of physical activity, all this stress on a population level, that obesogenic environment that developed so much more quickly than the biology, it basically pushes up how much energy or how much fat our body wants to store.
If you think about it, we evolved when food was scarce and starvation was always, a risk. So we evolved to store fat and to fear famine. And although food insecurity is a thing and hunger still exists in our world and vast parts of the world, food is not scarce, especially highly processed, low quality food that does not give us nutrients, but packs in a lot of calories. So this totally makes sense.
What we do know is that for most people, maybe, over centuries and millennia, we evolved in this way where basically you wanted to make sure that you didn't starve, right? So
Right.
you wanted to store enough
This is what I was
energy
talking
so
about.
that if there was a famine, you would not starve.
In my body,
Mhm.
because I obviously have an issue with obesity. In my body, in people who are prone to be
Mhm.
overweight, as I have been, um, is that because my hormones are different than the other
They
person's?
may be, or your brain. It's because obesity is a neurometabolic disease, so or neuroendocrine. Hormones inform the brain. So maybe in your body,
That's a phrase that I'm not familiar with, and I'm going to write it down. I'm even going
Because
back
my hormones are
to
different than
hear
the
it
other
again.
they
person's?
may be, or your brain. It's because obesity is a neurometabolic disease, so or
Neurometabolic.
neuroendocrine. Hormones inform the
Neuroendocrine.
brain. So maybe in your body's like, I'm really good at holding on to that energy. I'm really good at holding on to some extra fat just in case I need it later.
Mhm.
And somebody else's body says, no, I don't need that. But for most people, where we started the conversation, for most people, we want to store more. We want to store extra. And that is where our body is happy. And that is what our body defends. And it's because of the environment we live in.
So, one of the big breakthrough for me a couple of years ago when I was having this discussion, the state of weight on O'Daily, the big breakthrough for me was understanding, the aha for me was like, this is like the years in the early 80s, mid to late 80s. This was like the years of the mid to late 80s because he started the Oprah show in 1986. And I remember doing a show on alcoholism in 1987 on a whole family of alcoholics and generations passing it on. And people were outraged that you would call alcoholism a disease in
Yes.
1987. Like, how dare you? They just need to put the bottle down and they're really just drunks and so forth. And over time, through education, through information, through people looking at other people in their family, through corporations understanding what it was, people came to understand that it actually is an addiction born of disease.
I remember those times in the 80s, and I was not in graduate school yet. I was in college, but it was very hard to wrap my head around the idea that alcoholism was a disease because my whole life I had just been in the society that saw alcoholism as a choice, as something that people, could just stop if they really wanted to. And the culture really shifted from the 80s to I don't know how many years it was before there was more of a general understanding in society that it was so much more complicated than like, well, if you really wanted to stop, you could just stop.
Yes.
And I think that's where we are now with obesity.
Yeah.
People still don't understand it. They want to blame other people for it. They want to say, just put your fork down and quit,
Yeah. Yeah.
eating those brownies or those potato chips.
Right.
And what's wrong with you? And one of the reasons why I was reluctant to use them in the beginning, when I was trying to lose weight after my knee surgery, because I also felt it's cheating. It's the easy way out. I've got to prove this one last time I could do it by myself. And I don't want people saying I took the easy way out. And I think that that's one of the major issues that people who are now open to using the drug, their friends, their colleagues, their families, and also within themselves. Is it the easy way out?
Yeah. I mean,
I relate to this so much. I never thought that I would take a GLP-1 because my whole life I was able to manage my weight myself and never really go up more than being in the overweight category. But I knew exactly why I was overweight. Like I was not moving enough and I was eating too much dessert and too many seconds and just, eating a lot of food and not moving enough. So it made perfect sense. My body was just responding to how I was treating it. And so I felt empowered to reverse that. And anytime I needed to lose some weight, I could. So I never thought I would need a medication. And it wasn't until after menopause that my body stopped cooperating, so to speak. My hormones changed enough that I needed help. And it was a huge mindset shift for me to realize that I wasn't taking an easy way out or taking a shortcut, but that my body really needed this. And it went a long way towards me believing on this emotional level that obesity is a disease, because I grew up thinking that if you were obese, you were just like eating too much. That evolved over time in graduate school and in having therapy clients. I was able to see that medical conditions and hormone health and things absolutely affect that. So it wasn't that black and white for me during my adulthood. But for me personally, I felt like it was pretty straightforward, I guess, until my hormones got all out of whack. I developed the disease of obesity. One of the reasons I think this conversation is so important is because it is happening with a celebrity as big as Oprah. If someone like Oprah can acknowledge that she needed medication, it can give other people permission to stop trying to do this alone or to blame themselves. So normalizing using medication as part of a legitimate healthcare plan instead of, looking at it as some kind of cop-out. Or in my case, I looked at it as like a last resort. If I could go back in time, I would have come around to the way of seeing it as a legitimate healthcare intervention. I didn't see this interview when it came out last year. I wish I had, but I hope that it does empower people to seek medical care.
I've said this on other occasions that I was publicly humiliated
Yeah.
for 25 years, every week, exploited by the tabloids. Every time any comedian wanted to make fun or make a joke about it, they could make a joke about it. And I accepted it because I thought I deserved it. I accepted it.
Yeah.
I was shamed by it. And I received it because I thought, well, they're right.
Right.
They're
And they
right.
were wrong.
And they were
And
wrong.
they
Now
were
I know they were so
wrong.
Yeah.
But
Now I know why they were wrong.
Oh, this just hurts my heart for Oprah because I love her, and for everyone who's struggled with obesity. That self-blame and that acceptance that it's their fault is a huge burden to have to live with. And part of what the medical developments in obesity medicine is helping with is to let people know that there are brain and metabolic issues that contribute to obesity, and that it's not a condition of character or behavior.
You blame
It's
yourself.
so hard. It's so.
And any person who's watching or listening to us right now who has suffered from obesity or being overweight, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You do not have to be on television every day to experience the same level of shame and embarrassment. And why can't I do this? And I'm so good at so many other things, and I can take charge of my life. I can do all of
Right.
this. And why
Right.
can't I?
Right.
I hesitate to compare myself too much because it's only been the past couple of years that I've struggled with this. But I did have a lot of self-blame and like, I have to just do this. I'm obviously not trying hard enough. I need to try harder. What's wrong with me? All of that I went through. So this is very relatable.
It's not targeting yourself.
No, obesity is a neurometabolic or a neuroendocrine disease. It's literally a
In the
disease.
brain.
Yes. And so what happens, there's something that is dysregulated or broken in terms of the set point, in terms of how much energy we want to store. And the medicines, what we think that they do is that they re-regulate that set point. They decrease that set point. So as you start taking a medicine during that first phase when you're losing weight, what happens is your body is trying to chase a lower defended fat mass, a lower set point. And so that's why people eat less in that first phase. Then once they plateau, once their weight plateaus out, then some of the hunger and cravings and things can return, but the weight does not. And we have to reassure our patients that that's exactly what's supposed to happen. Because once you get to a new weight plateau, you're not chasing a new defended fat mass. So with every dose escalation, you're chasing a new lower defended fat mass or set point.
This idea of chasing a new set point was new to me when I watched this. And I wonder if it explains why my weight has been within a pound or two for weeks, because I haven't really gone up in dose. I went up from 0.25 of semaglutide to 0.5 for a couple of weeks, and then I switched to tirzepatide, which meant starting back at the lowest dose. And I'm still on that. It's just been a few weeks. So I'm wondering if I'm at kind of a set point. I lost 12 or 13 pounds. And if the next dose increase, I'll lose another bit of weight and then get to another set point. I don't know. But it's an interesting idea I wasn't familiar with until I watched this.
Many of you might remember Amy from the ABC special I did back in the spring. Feels like years ago now. Shame, Blame, and the Weight Loss Revolution. What happened after you went on Mounjaro?
Immediately, almost within days, that voice that I've had in my head since I always say, my earliest memories, 5 years old, I remember thinking about food, when I'm going to eat food, how much I'm going to eat food, where I'm going to, what I just ate, how many calories was it, and all this.
That was me. Even though I wasn't an overweight child, I was always thinking about food, always wanting more food. I don't know why I wasn't overweight, except that my mom served us home-cooked, pretty healthy meals. She didn't bring a lot of junk food into the house. She really limited the amount of fast food we ate. It was a rare treat. And I was active. I was like enrolled in sports and stuff. So my lifestyle might have been a contributor, because I know that the food noise has been with me my whole life, so that I didn't even know I had it until I started GLP-1.
What are the biggest misconceptions that people are sharing with you about the GLP-1 weight loss drugs? What are they saying?
Oh my gosh, it's all day long, unfortunately. On social media platforms, people continue to say you're lazy if you're on a GLP-1 medication, you're lacking motivation, you should just be able to go to the gym.
I love this one, because if you are on a GLP-1, you know that you have to work so hard even though you're on it. And so the people who think that you're lazy and taking some easy way out just cracks me up.
And what else are they saying to you?
I think people just assume that GLP-1 medications, that often they'll just phrase it as, well, all it does is make you starve yourself. That's all it does. There's not more to it.
Before I educated myself about GLP-1s, when I heard, this was years ago, when I just first heard talk about like a new class of weight loss drugs, I equated weight loss drug with appetite suppressant, because that's what, drugs like phentermine and things like that do. So yeah, I had just thought that, oh, it's this shot and it, makes you not hungry, and so you lose weight. But once you scratch the surface and learn the least little bit about these medications, you quickly realize that the appetite suppression is actually a side effect of the medication, and that it's having a much broader impact on the body and the brain.
I mean, so much shaming around these meds, to the point of your face looks a certain way if you're on these medications, or your body looks a certain way.
Ozempic face and Ozempic butt. Yeah, it's what I've heard.
Exactly. I'm told I have Ozempic face and Ozempic butt. And in reality, it's just loose skin from significant weight loss. It has nothing to do with the medication. But, medications like Ozempic and Mounjaro are, in my opinion, a perfect sort of scapegoat for the continuation of shaming people in larger bodies.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't agree more. It's you literally can't win. You cannot win. You're shamed if you have obesity. You're shamed if you don't have, if you don't try and lose weight. You're shamed if you lose weight. You're shamed if you use the medicines. If you don't use the medicines.
Yeah.
There's literally no winning. So, I wholeheartedly agree. You are sharing your story so vulnerably and bravely online, and you're fighting for what's right. And what's right is to stop shaming and blaming people. Just let people do what they do. You're taking care of your health.
Yeah, the therapist part of me is just reflecting on the 25 years I've worked as a therapist, how closely I've seen weight struggles and feeling shame about your body being related to mood and anxiety problems. And it's no wonder in this society that really discriminates and shames people based on their size that it would affect someone's self-esteem and self-perception.
Yeah. In another conversation, Dr. Anya and I were talking to a woman who said she's kept herself out of every picture
Yeah.
in her entire life with her family.
Wearing dark colors.
Wearing dark colors or standing behind other people.
I hardly have any pictures of myself in 2024 because I was just the heaviest I'd ever been and I felt so uncomfortable. And also just so frustrated because I was trying really hard to lose weight and it wasn't coming off. So I just have a couple of like before pictures.
Do you have a question for us today or do you want to share something? Yeah.
Yes. So, as someone who has struggled with weight for most of my life, and emotional eating as well, food was always an escape for me, just from deep emotional pain, from anxiety, and the journey to my health didn't really start until after the birth of my 2 children.
I have always been an emotional eater. If I'm sad, if I'm bored, if I just want some kind of pleasure, eating and food has filled that role for me. Less so now on the GLP-1.
GLP-1s gave me, a second chance to really take control of my health and start again. And so I started in January of this year and have lost 50 pounds, which has been incredible. Just my energy.
50 pounds is about how much I have to lose, or when I started. Now it's about 38 pounds. So her story is really inspiring to me.
Everything that I have.
And the food noise stopped, right? The food
yes,
noise.
And the food noise stopped. The constant cravings for sugar and carbs and always thinking about the next meal. All of that went away. And it's something I've never experienced before. It's been incredible. I'm wondering if I will still need to stay on this medication for the rest of my life, or is this something I could taper off of?
I wonder about that for myself too. So this part of the conversation feels really relevant to me.
Right now, what we do know is that obesity is a chronic disease. So let's say that you had high blood pressure and you started taking a blood pressure medicine. What would happen if you were to stop taking that blood pressure medicine? Your blood pressure would go back up. We just conducted a trial. It was 3 years. When the medicine was stopped, people started gaining back the weight. I do think that we'll see variability in that weight regain. But right now, for most patients, on average, what we see, and in the studies, we've seen this as well, most people, yes, you have to continue taking the medicine because it's targeting your biology. It's targeting your obesity biology.
This isn't a surprising answer to me. I think I'm on this for the long term, but, we'll see. I'm open to the idea, and I think it's probable that I'm on this medication for the long term and that most people are.
There is another disclosure about what these obesity medications have revealed in terms of helping people drink less alcohol and not obviously lowering blood sugar, but what are all the other health benefits that we are discovering?
Yeah, I mean, there's studies coming out about heart disease, about heart failure, about improving knee pain, obstructive sleep apnea, and all of these are obesity-related diseases.
What is it about it that makes you not want to drink as much alcohol? I mean, I used to be the tequila queen, and now it's take it or leave it.
Yeah. So
yeah, the systemic impact of these medications are another reason why they're not just a weight loss medication. Weight loss is just like a side effect of the medication.
Those studies are being done. We think that, again, it's similar pathways in the brain that are being targeted. So just as your craving or your hunger may come down as you're taking these medications, in the same way your craving for other things that may be pleasurable goes down.
My craving for Coke Zero has gone down. I had tried to stop Coke Zero before I was on a GLP-1 because I just know it's just not good for you. I know it's not that there's sugar in it, but it's really bad for your microbiome in your gut. And it was really hard for me to quit. I would crave a Coke Zero every day and have one at least, sometimes two a day. And without even trying, once I got on the GLP-1, I just lost interest in having that Coke Zero. And now once in a while, like if in a restaurant, I'll have one. Very rarely at home now will I have one because they just don't sound good. It's so interesting.
That I was not crazy and that I really did have something wrong. And she listened. And so within 1 week of taking this medicine, I could see that the inflammation was going away.
That anti-inflammation piece is huge. I think it's the reason why, even though my actual weight hasn't decreased much, I can work out better and easier with less discomfort and pain, and I recover better, is that I'm not so inflamed. My joints aren't so inflamed. And I know I've heard this from so many other people who are on these medications, that the inflammation piece of it is huge.
Now, all of these medications also for
We're
diabetes,
just now hearing about it,
Yeah.
but some people have been using them
we have been using
for
them
20 years.
Yes. The first
Yes.
one was FDA approved in 2005. So it was nearly 20 years ago that these medications were first FDA approved.
That's something that's good to remember, because these are so often talked about as the new class of weight loss drugs. And it might be new in terms of getting FDA approval as a weight loss medication, but they're not new medications. It's nice to hear this doctor and Oprah acknowledging a lot of the emotions around struggling with weight and changing our perceptions around obesity and how to intervene with obesity. Honestly, had thought there'd be a lot more science in this interview because of who Oprah was interviewing. I don't think they even used the word GLP-1 a single time. They referred to it, but she referred to it just as hormones in our body that regulate hunger. And it was not sciencey at all. In fact, it was very heart-centered. And I appreciated that, although it surprised me. With obesity being viewed as a disease, there could be a real medicalization of weight and weight loss, or there is an increased medicalization of weight loss. And this interview, not being a deep dive into neuroscience, helps to balance that. GLP-1s are a very powerful set of tools, but they don't cure body image wounds. They can affect eating patterns, but they don't affect the fear of being seen. The medications can quiet the food noise, but they don't affect the effects of self-criticism and criticism or judgment from others, all kinds of emotional impacts. So it is heartening to hear this side of weight loss addressed on such a big stage, instead of simplifying it just down to, this is a disease, take this shot. It was a good job balancing the science with the emotions of it. Shame is so often internalized, especially by women. And I think this interview can really help shift that by introducing this more compassionate and evidence-based view of obesity and struggling with losing weight. As more and more people take GLP-1 medications, I think it's really challenging the longstanding narrative that weight loss comes through willpower alone. As a therapist, I've definitely seen how deeply shame can take root in clients who struggle with their weight. And I have personal experience of that as well. So hearing this science about these medications reframed through Oprah's lens in this interview with this Yale-trained expert in weight loss and obesity medicine, I think it really helps lift some of that blame. Like I said, I just am putting excerpts of this interview in here. There were big parts of it that I was just watching and kind of nodding along with. So definitely check out the whole interview if you haven't seen it. There's a link in the description. If you're new to me, hi, I'm Bobby. I'm a therapist and an artist, and I'm documenting my GLP-1 weight loss journey here on YouTube. I publish a new update video every week on Tuesdays. This is not one of those weekly updates. This was just something a little different that I did today. But definitely subscribe if you want to watch my weekly updates. And if you enjoyed this reaction video today, hit like. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Take care. Bye.